So we are with Andrea Coville, the CEO of Brodeur Partners, which is a global PR firm, and we are in Boston, Massachusetts. And your focus is in clean tech and social responsibility, really, but you do branding, marketing, communications, public relations, and even social media now that it's a huge trend in the industry. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how it led you to your leadership position at Brodeur?
Sure. Well, it's really nice to spend time with you, Emma. I started out as a journalist, and when I graduated from University of New Hampshire, I had a degree in journalism, and I think really that was the key thing that took me through my career, because the ability of anyone to learn how to write succinctly, to be able to tell a story, and to be able to communicate your ideas through the written word is probably one of the best skills you ever learn. And even if you do it just okay, it's a wonderful thing to know how to do. So I started out with that, and it was like I always tell people when they're getting started in any job or they're leaving college, don't worry about your first, second, or third jobs, because they're all stepping stones that lead to another one, and eventually you end up at something that has all of the attributes of a job that makes you really excited and happy. But a lot of my jobs, I was a new products editor, and then I went in-house at a software company, and I did public relations in-house, and then I went into the agency world, and just got more and more exposure. I started out in technology, and then moved into healthcare and B2B and consumer, and then got an interest in the business side of things. So that's how it worked out. So one thing leads to another.
Absolutely. I think I continuously hear that as a trend. They're like, especially as a senior, everyone's asking, so what do you want to do when you graduate? And you're just like, because your interests, sometimes you have a few interests. Mm-hmm. But I think if you're learning a lot and, you're honing in on skills that you need, like writing, that is PR. You need to be a good writer. So you've probably built that foundation early on, and it probably helped you a lot. Definitely.
Just being willing to, I think any person, and I see a lot of interns that come and work with us here at Brodeur, I think the ones that do really well are the ones that are just into it to get as much experience, to get exposure to a variety of experiences. They're not, their first couple of jobs, I always say focus more on the experience, and if you can, worry less about the money, Mm-hmm. And it's really easy when you're first getting started in business to say, oh my God, that $2,000 jump means so much to me because it's my whole free, my spending money. But the experience is what's important, because they all add up. And if you're doing things that you love, you get great references, and then you get the job you've always wanted.
Right, passion is definitely a plus. If you love what you do, it'll show, and you'll work harder. And so, I think passion is a consistent quality you see in leadership. But recently on the Brodeur blog, I was reading a post that it was talking about the importance of having both women and men leaders on the board, because they contribute so many different things, and you can really work together, and that's such a powerful relationship. But in your experience, are there 2 or 3 consistent qualities that really make a successful woman leader?
Well, I think, I don't mean to overgeneralize, but I do. I've actually written some presentations on the subject. I think women have, I wouldn't say it's a unique ability, but I think women have an innate ability to lead and manage using a lot of empathetic leadership skills, which I think are really important in like building a team and being a coach. And you can be a leader and a coach at the same time, and bringing out the best in people. It's I think women, in my experience, probably are more successful about getting people to feel more empowered about their own strengths, rather than just focusing on the negatives, or I would say more of an abrupt approach where here's your challenge, you should meet it, here's your reward. I think women are great about engaging teams and getting people to pulling the best out of people. I think their leadership styles. They also are very strong in terms of leveraging their own networks. I think women do a great job with personal networks that range from really high school years through all their professional careers to their friendships. And I think women pull those networks together in different situations and do a good job leveraging them. I know men do too, but I think women in particular are very good at it.
Yeah. Also, the different skills really, you can bring it to the table and work together, and I just think they complement one another so much. And I think it's just a trending topic you hear a lot about, there aren't that many women in the board positions right now, and the numbers growing, and you see more women like you. And is there any advice you have to women who are looking to get to that position?
I think in certainly professional services firms like I'm in, I think it is easier. It's not as difficult to be at a board level, and in my case too, being an entrepreneur and starting and running your own business is different than working your way up through a corporation, through different layers. So I think that if you have a dream and you want to do something and you have that entrepreneurial kind of bone in your body, I would really encourage people when they get to the level that they feel ready to do that to go for it, because it's really a wonderful thing to do. But I think that I truly admire the women that make their way up through corporations, because I think the level of negotiating, political skill, and just focus and knowledge is so impressive. So
Brodeur really emphasizes staying relevant and helping their clients stay relevant, which is so important. And I think that you guys are really ahead of the curve, like focusing on, corporate social responsibility. And I know you had mentioned in a recent blog post that you had wrote mindful work. And I think that's something that a lot of companies had lost sight of, and they really are paying for it now. And you really help your clients stay on top of that. And now we are in this period of just crazy technology. It's rapidly changing the way we communicate as people, as the way companies communicate with their stakeholders, with their clients, with their customers. And so how do you feel about the skills needed today versus the skills needed 10 years ago? Do you still need the same ones, or are they changing to make it in the PR industry?
I think at the heart of anything, if a person again has the writing skills, passion for the subject, and a lot of common sense, that will get you pretty far. But I think the tools in the toolbox that we all use to communicate are changing, and it's like being able to travel more, being able to be fluent in more languages allows you to get more benefits out of traveling around the world. I think it's fluency in certainly some of the social media and some of the technology. Not even trends wouldn't be the right word, but the technology that enables us to do more of what we need to do in our daily jobs. I think just not shying away from that, and being comfortable and embracing it, and understanding the way communities are built, and the way different groups of communities, either different ages of people or different communities built on interests or communities built on a lot of things. I mean, if you understand that and pick that up, I think it's a tremendous advantage.
Absolutely. And I think that, as you said before, you're able to travel easier now, faster now, you're able to communicate more. And companies actually need to be even more careful, because the news gets, out like that on Twitter, on Facebook, on blogs. So, it's really important to be wary of that. So have you seen a huge impact on the work you've done for your clients with this technology innovation?
I think that, I think you hit on the fact that the brand is so immediate, so people can see through false claims or false promises or untruths very, very quickly. And obviously with social media, it's really easy to have momentum build around challenging people that choose to do that. So I think that it's part of what is really, really exciting about working in the business we do right now is if you have the opportunity to work with great companies, great products, great ideas. They don't have to be the biggest, they just have to want to be great and want to be truthful. You really can make a difference, because then these new tools that you're talking about really connect with communities of people that inspire them. And I think that's what this whole notion of relevance is about. Is the world's a pretty noisy place, right? And if you're going to pay attention to something and really engage in something and change your behavior because of something, it has to be really relevant. It has to, sort of pierce the information overload. So that's what relevance is about. And it's understanding how human beings think and process and feel and connect, looking at it more holistically rather than just here's the message, hope you engage in it,
And that leads you to my next question, exactly. So social media, and when companies started first using Twitter and Facebook and all these different channels, they were kind of just like, here's a message and hope you engage in it. Companies are really starting to get it now and really engage with the clients and on a different level that they weren't able to at one point. And so how do you feel social media to PR marketing? Is it a vital component now? Is it? Yeah.
I think it's social media, earned media, paid media. I think it's part of just the way it's a whole thing. You should look at it as one thing. You shouldn't say parse it off and in quarters. You have to look at it's an opportunity to look at it holistically. So.
And have you had a hard time working with clients, convincing them of that? Because there's a lot of talk about how they haven't found a way to measure results yet. But now there's also, all these studies saying, well, maybe it's not return on investment, it's return on influence. So I've heard a lot of things like that, and I don't know how receptive companies really are to that.
I think you hit on the answer to that in your earlier question, which was how social media has grown. And I think in the earlier days, certainly healthcare companies that were concerned with like FDA requirements, legal issues, I think companies, maybe B2B companies that didn't see the direct payoff as much, were more hesitant to jump in right away. But I think as it's proven itself to be a really effective, honest way of communicating with communities of people, I think companies have jumped in more and more. So there was definitely a tip of the iceberg where people, a certain group of individuals, companies, you saw it in politics first, right? It was all just grassroots mobilization, and then that moved its way into other things.
It's a very exciting time right now, I think. I mean, for anyone in the communications industry, there's just so many changes every day that you really have to stay on top of, and it's hard to sometimes. And as a student, what I first started learning is almost not irrelevant, but has changed drastically in the past 4 years. So I was wondering if you had any advice for students entering the PR industry now, and any predictions of what it will be like in the future.
Oh, I think again, not to sound like a broken record with the writing, but the more experience you can get in the social media side of things, it's really great, because the digital tools are a skill set that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people that enter the workforce 4 or 5 years ahead of you are not going to have the same advantage that you do. So the fact that just the current, students now, computers, the web, these tools, how you use cell phones, mobile devices, you guys adopt to technology in an instant. You figure out a way to engage it, share it with friends, and it's that ability to adopt new things and change quickly. So I think you have a tremendous advantage, actually, for just absorb your stuff, and absorb yourself in what interests you, and keep that fluency up in that. But I think it's just natural to your group, to your age group. I really do. It's crazy,
and I think that looking at generations that are much younger and that are in middle school right now on their iPhones, and I'm like, I had the first model of the Razr in 8th grade. That was a huge birthday present, and just looking back and how irrelevant that phone is, I was able to text, and that's it. I wasn't able to surf the web.
Look what you do now.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing.
You probably fix things for your parents too, right?
Yes. I'm teaching. My mom recently just got the iPhone, and I'm helping her out with it. And
I will admit to that. My kids show me a lot of stuff.
And it's great. It's great to be able to combine the old with the new and really move forward with that. So it's really exciting. And I just want to end on one note, because you did write a recent blog post about your predictions for 2012, and one thing that really stuck with me was your post about just mindful work and having being very optimistic for 2012 with good business and a good outlook on life. And I just really wanted you to kind of touch upon that and really what you mean by mindful work.
I think that where that came from was thinking about people that were entering sort of 2012, and I think you saw a renewed spirit of people kind of putting 2011 behind them. There's been more interest in the elections. I think more just general interest in things. People, I think, feel that things are going to get better economically, or maybe they don't know quite how they are, but they think perhaps they will. So I think people have learned through the experience of the last 3 or 4 years that whatever you choose to spend your time on, there's a focus that it's okay to do 2 or 3 things really well than worrying about grabbing 10. And there's an appreciation about having family or having whatever you appreciate as an individual, whatever's important to you. I think people appreciate the few things that they do have because they've seen so much taken away. So I think that creates a spirit of mindfulness about what you want to do. And if you feel lucky to have a job, or you feel lucky that your kids are safe, or you feel lucky to have opportunities to travel, you're more mindful about it. And so I sort of think that people are going to be more mindful about what they do. And that's where, and so that has an implication for our business, because you have to be extremely relevant if you want people to choose to spend the time with you, your idea, your product, your campaign, your brand, because they have a lot of other options, including not spending time with anything. So I think that's an important thing to kind of think about this year.
Absolutely, and it's exciting, a new year and a new election, and just a lot of changes to be happening, and very exciting, and definitely wishing you the best 2012.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, wonderful talking to you, Andrea.